Hey, come catch this wave with the Fixx squad. The Fixx is in. I'm Mr. Soul, I'm tuning in. What you doing?
Stand up. James left, but the king still reigns here. No tears, no love lost, no rain here. Delivers, I promise, Santa rain here. Love for the city still resides here. Fix for your ailment, faith that resides outside the lines. Detox your mind, cause it matters. Art outside the box, we pace better. The Fixx is in, and we rock a channel. We rock with them for what's deep within. Expose those who talk but don't live. Expose those who talk but don't live. Take offense. Judge by the fruit from the tree, but if the fruit tastes...
Welcome back. DJ Focus, Dice Gamble. You tap back into the Fixx, your source for faith-infused hip-hop, R&B, and poetry, right here on Siriusxm, channel 154, Holy Culture Radio. And you know what time it is. And when I tell you guys, y'all in for a treat this morning, I have been following this young lady's journey for a while. She has been doing, like I say, music for a long time, and she's been putting out a lot of good music. You may remember her from a super group that was making a lot of good Christian music, CCM music. They had their own little Latino vibe going on. And I think they were like one of the first, at least that I know, in our space, when you talk about Christian hip hop, urban gospel type CCM music. They were like the first Latino group, I think, that was, making the head waves and getting booked and doing tours and everything. So listen, without further ado, let me welcome in the super talented BLANCA. What's going on, sis?
What's up, everybody? I feel so happy to be here.
Listen,
how you doing?
I'm good. We're grateful for you to stop in and just chat with us this morning. We got a lot to talk about. I'm serious when I say the journey for you musically has been amazing. You have been putting out so much great music. When did you know that you like the gift of singing and doing music, like that was what you wanted to do as a profession?
It's so crazy because I know you hear this a lot, but it was true for me. I think since a little girl, the passion for music was always there. Like I remember being 5 years old and singing, Whitney Houston and Celine Dion and all these classic like 90s major songs, divas of the 90s, and my family being like, I don't know if this is like a normal 5-year-old voice. So it started at a really young age, but I think it started to take form in my teenage years. I started wanting to sing professionally, and I live in Orlando, Florida. So of course you have like Disney World, you had all the, the pop groups, NSYNC, O-Town, coming out of Orlando. And so I was trying to get plugged in there, but then I had this huge life change where I gave my life to Christ and I started going to church. I was 17 years old. And then it just clicked for me at that moment where I was like, I want my music to have purpose. I feel like this is my calling. This is what I'm made to do is to create encouragement and hope through the songs that I write and that I sing.
Talk a little bit more about you rededicating or dedicating your life to Christ. Like walk us through that process of you just being able to get in that space and learn God for yourself. We talk about it all the time on the show, how a lot of us, whether you grew up in church or you kind of fell out of church, when was that moment, and walk us through the process of you really developing your own personal relationship with Christ?
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of people assume because I do Christian music that I was somehow raised in the church or that I grew up in the church. But it wasn't like that for me. As a Latina, I think culturally, we believe in God. We know of God. We pray before we go to bed. Like all of those things are true. Mm-hmm. But to have like a relationship with Jesus and all of that came later for me, like in my senior year of high school. And it's so beautiful. I'll share a little bit of my story. A lot of people may know this about me that have followed my journey, but my dad was really the pivotal piece in my relationship with God. My dad had a pretty rough upbringing and was kind of, how do you say, I want to say like he had a life in the streets, but I don't think that that's appropriate. I think it's more like he just had some troubles growing up and had substance abuse, was addicted to drugs and all those things. And so he ended up leaving my family when I was a young girl. And so the crazy thing about it all is that my dad came back into the picture when I was a teenage girl, and he had given his life to Christ. He was the first person in my family who had this like complete 180 in his life, and he had found God. started going to church, came to find his children and just kind of ask for forgiveness and be a part of our life. And so his request was to take me and my brother to church with him on the weekend. So my mom began to let us like share time with my father by going to church with him and getting involved in the things that he was doing. And so I got to see firsthand kind of this very real relationship with Jesus that my dad had. Like it wasn't something that I grew up understanding, but I had like this tangible kind of example in my father. And so just hearing his testimony and seeing the difference in who he was impacted me a lot. So that played kind of the pivotal role of me giving my life to Christ and starting that journey for myself.
So walk us through the music career. How did you link up and Group One Crew? How did that form? How did you guys link up and talk about all the magic that y'all created?
Yes, they were godsends for me. My brothers in Group One Crew. When I got saved, my dad took me to a local church here in Orlando called Faith Assembly, and they were putting on like a production, a play of heaven and hell, like the whole play that a lot of people have seen. And so that's where I gave my life to Christ. And so I started going to this church just because I felt connected, impacted by this experience that I had. And within the church, I had some mutual friends from like school that were going there, and they introduced me to more people, and I got plugged in to kind of like this Bible study for musicians, artists, rappers, singers that went to this church that wanted to get deeper in the word, but also do music together. So it was called Group One. And that's where it all started. It was about 13 of us that used to attend this every week. And Manuel, for those of you that know the history of Group One Crew, we had a member named Manuel, and he was kind of like the leader of Group One. So he was the main one doing music at the time, but he was allowing us to like go in the studio, record on his albums, produce on his albums, have features. And so we would travel with him, like when he would do local shows, and people started thinking Manuel was Group One. So they wanted to start booking Group One, or they wanted the crew to come out. And that's kind of like where everything started to form.
So yeah, what was that like though? Because like you were on tours, like it
It
kind of
was
didn't it
crazy.
happen suddenly? Like I know you were like you go from just like you say doing the little maybe the performances at the church or within the group, but then now you on tour. Like speak to that.
Listen, it was wild. We were three little Hispanic kids from Florida who had never experienced anything like this. Like everything changed overnight. It was such a crazy season because we had MySpace, and our manager at the time, who ended up being our manager, he found us on MySpace that he knew of a label in Nashville, Tennessee that was looking for a Christian, pop group.
Mm-hmm.
And we went out there to do a showcase and basically audition for this label. And immediately they were like, yes, they wanted to sign us. So it was like within a year, it felt like everything changed. I was just going into college. I was studying to do musical theater at UCF. And it was just like a whirlwind. Like I just remember being 19 years old, and our first tour, we did a minivan and followed, I don't know if you guys have heard of Winter Jam. It's like a big tour
Yes.
that goes on. So it's like 50 cities. Imagine us in a minivan following all the buses in 50 cities in the middle of the winter. So it was like snow, horrible weather, but we were so committed to the dream and just felt excited of the doors that were opening, and that's where everything launched off from there.
Who's that one artist or celebrity or anybody that you've met? Because I know you've probably met a little bit of everybody that like when the first time you met them in person, you were like, wow, that's really.
Oh man, it's funny because since I had just gotten saved and I like started touring with the group, I didn't know a lot of Christian artists, but what I did know was actually like I listened to more like gospel worship stuff, and so I knew like Kirk Franklin, and there was like a few Fred Hammond, Like those artists were like artists that walked me through kind of my first years as a Christian. But like Toby Mac and like some of these
Right.
artists, we would meet them and I'm like, I have no idea who this is, but everybody's making a big deal, so I'm guessing I should too. But yeah, I think going to our first Dove Awards and just being surrounded by, because there you have like gospel artists, you had CCM artists, worship artists, like seeing Hillsong was huge. Seeing Fred Hammond, Kirk Franklin, all these people, CC Winans that like I would like sing their songs at church, was a big impactful moment for me.
Listen, DJ Focus, you tuned into the Fixx. We got to go to a quick break. I promise you, don't touch that dial. We coming right back with more from BLANCA. Keep it locked. You tuned into the Fixx.
Holy Culture Radio. We're not just background noise. We play the music that inspires you because every song has a story. Christian hip hop and R&B music and talk on Siriusxm channel 154, 24 hours a day. Holy Culture Radio is changing the game. Discussions about faith, arts, vocation, and education. We talk about the real issues that affect our communities and work together to find solutions. Join the discussion at holyculture.net and be heard.
Welcome back, DJ Focus, Dice Gamble. You tap back into the Fixx, your source of faith-infused hip-hop, R&B, and poetry. Still got BLANCA on the line with us, and let's talk about this music, your latest project, The Heartbreak and The Healing. When I heard it for the first time, I'm be honest with you, I sat with the full project, and I listened to it like 3 times. No, seriously, because I was like, one, I'm be honest with you, I did not know everything that was going on in your life. So for you to bring us into your world and catch us up with all the divorce, the pain of some of your childhood trauma, some of the things that you were battling with, like it was like, wow, this I was telling everybody, I say, listen, this is a project that I think everybody needs to listen to. There's a lot of mental health tone in this project that I think people will be healed from. So walk us through, one, the process of you creating this project and being able to really be authentically you and share real stuff that's going on in your life with the people.
I think if I had to sum it up, as you're talking, I'm like getting flashbacks of this album process and everything that I walked through over the last, 2 years, 3 years now. And it was healing for me. I think there's a song on my album called Something Better. And if I had to sum it all up, I really believe it's that. It's seeing how even in our worst pain or our most vulnerable or our biggest heartbreaks, how like something blossoms from those places and beauty does come out in some way or another. Even if we don't see it in the moment, I'm like, I'm able to look back now and say, wow, I'm not the same BLANCA that started that record process. But for those that know me in person, I'm kind of like, I don't like conflict. I tend to be a little bit more on the people pleaser side, so it's hard for me to share my emotions, speak my emotions. And that's something that I've been working on how to be authentic, how to be real, how to not be afraid of these places because of my childhood and some things that happened. I think my voice was kind of taken away from me. And so I'm learning how to get it back. But music is therapy. And I try to, when I look at The Heartbreak and the Healing, it's like, this is journal entries for me. These are me writing things down that I've experienced and trying to do it in a way that's not so focused on how do I make this the most Christian, like I want God's in my heart. Like it's the Christ within me that's going to shine through these songs. And I think people need to hear it in a real way, because I'm not alone in it. And I know there's other people experiencing loss and heartbreak and divorce and all these things in their own life.
Where did that boldness come from, though? I like the fact that you said, you were still trying to make a project, of course, that believers would want to listen to. But I do like storytelling. So I think, so this is my little rant, and I'm going to let you answer the question. I think sometimes we don't allow for you artists, to have an artistic expression and be able to express the music like it should be expressed. I think, especially when you talk about the Christian faith, it does not have to be heavy. Every other line, Jesus this, Jesus that. for it still to be faith-centered, for it still to be authentically something that somebody can learn from. So where did your boldness come from to say, you know what, I'm not going to stay in the box? Because listen, you made all type of music. I would argue every genre, from, like you say, the pop, the hip-hop, a little urban gospel. So where has that boldness come from?
I think it's been in the healing. I feel like in this season of growth, in this season of healing and growing myself, there's been a boldness that's come in me just wanting to, I don't know, when you go through hard stuff, like, and for me, it's been a lot of trauma over a short amount of time, and losing my parents. My mom passed away to cancer, going through divorce, having a baby in the midst of all that, and just being like, I can't, like, my faith can't be founded on this like facade of surface level Christianity that's, to me, I'm like, God is bigger than that, and he's real, and he's showing up in my life in all these ways, and I need to be more connected to that truth than me wanting to please everyone else in my creative process, and trying to please people or the label, or not wanting to be misjudged or misunderstood. And it's like all these fears. But as I walk through kind of the scariest parts of my life, I realized, like, if I could come out of that, I could do anything. And I want to be bold, and I want to speak out on things, and I want to share from a place of vulnerability and realness, because I feel like that's what's been missing in my artistry. So it's almost like I've reinvented myself in a way at this point in my career to say, like, what is it that's been missing, and what can I share now that I haven't shared before?
During this journey of you just trying to get yourself back to a place where, you know, you can deal with everything, did you have to go to some form of therapy, or did you go to some type of counseling at your church?
I started therapy. There was a woman that was introduced to me right when I was going through the divorce. And she was like a breath of fresh air. I don't know how we connected. It was like our mutual friends brought us together, and she just would connect with me daily and walk me through really hard things. Because with my divorce, it was so much bigger than that. As I, you know, I'm a female artist. I'm a Christian, you know, so it's like my faith, there's so much shame. There's so many things that were like getting brought up, even from my past. I dealt with a lot of child abuse as a young girl. And so it's like, I'm having to deal with so much from this one thing that was happening. And so this lady would just, like, she took the time to walk me through it and pray with me and talk through things and be real. And like, it was just amazing. And then from there, I started doing therapy where it was like more intense, of EMDR. I don't know if you've heard of that, but just going into like some of these places in my childhood and trying to, I don't know, reheal or like rewire some of those things that were misplaced. And so definitely therapy has been a huge part of this journey. And then I have an amazing group of friends. I don't know if they'll see this, but like my circle, they were just champions of me, like, to be honest. And they didn't allow me to let the fear overtake what I was doing in my creative process. My label, my A&R, my best friends, my family, they were just like, do it all, Blanca. Like, don't be afraid, put yourself out there. And that made a huge difference, because I felt supported, you know? So that was huge.
Yes, yes, I agree. Your support system is always huge when you have those vulnerable moments, and you just, you know, you're going through your process. So you need people you can trust in your corner that's going to rally and pray for you, encourage you, and keep you uplifted. So that's good. Listen, you already brought up the inspiration behind the song "Something Better." I want to ask you a few more to break down a few more of these songs. Even at my worst, talk about that, the inspiration behind that song.
Yeah, even at my worst, man, oh man, this was one of the first songs I wrote for this album.
This song is deep too as well. It's very
Yeah,
deep.
I remember I have like a lot of my creative process is that I'll take my phone and I have a list of like ideas, titles that I just write down. And I had, even at my worst, was written down as just a phrase, a title that I had from this experience. Cause I felt like a big thing that I dealt with was shame. I just felt a lot of shame. I felt like I disappointed the people in my life. I disappointed myself. Life didn't pan out the way that I thought it would. And so, I like blamed myself for that. And I just didn't feel good enough, uh, in the place that I was in, that I found myself in. And yet, like, God showed up in the midst of all that and reminded me of who I really am. And it's like, you're worthy because you're mine, period. Like,
That's good.
nothing else matters. And that was such a huge relief, to just feel like that process, that healing and that acceptance. And so I remember writing this song and just like having tears fill up my eyes when we went to record it. Like, I think we even used the song is the original recording that I did when I first did the demo. So we didn't even like need to change it was just so heartfelt of what I was experiencing at that time. And yeah, that's
No,
kind of the heart behind it.
yeah, never too far.
Never too far. This was just, I don't even know how this one came about, but I feel like it's become like a little banger. Like, people
It
like and
is.
request it and want to
Yeah,
hear the song.
yeah.
So I don't even do it live. So we're going to do it this weekend live for the first time. But I had the album basically finished, and Never Too Far was one of the last songs I recorded. So I went into the studio as like a one last hurrah to be like, is there anything missing? Like, does the album need something? And I felt like it was more, the inspiration behind Never Too Far was more like the feeling you get from the track and the beat and the song. Like, if it's a little bit more movement and not as heavy as some
Mm-hmm.
of the songs on the album.
Mm-hmm.
And so I felt like it was really necessary. And so Ty, he's an album mate, a friend. And so I had a feature on a song that will not be mentioned, but he had to drop out last minute, and Ty came through. He was like, I got you, girl. Like, we're going to make this amazing. And so he came on the song, and it was perfect. It was exactly what I knew needed to be on the album.
That's good. Listen, one of my favorite tracks on your project, featuring Jacqueline Carr, New Day. Come on, talk about that banger.
It's my favorite. Oh, never, New Day it's just so good. I feel like we recorded this in a day, and I was in LA, and I remember I put my headphones on with the demo, and I was walking down the street, and I felt like I was in a movie. It was like I was walking the streets of West Hollywood, and I was dancing, waiting for the light to turn as I walked to the studio. But it was like a true reflection of where I found myself at that time. And it was like the joy of all that I had experienced and where God brought me to in all of that. So it's like the heartbreak, and this is the healing. New Day is the healing. It's like, it's the I woke up, hey, that's enough. It's like you just feel good. You feel grateful, thankful in your heart, and that's what I wanted to capture with that song.
So you keep teasing us when we dropping this Wake Up remix. So I've been waiting. I've been over here anticipating, like,
Oh,
do I need to DM sis, like, sis, drop it? What are we doing?
it's coming out. I think the new date is sometime this month. I think the end of July is the new date. But we had a set date in June, and then Jacqueline's team heard it, and they were like, man, I think we're doing a disservice to the song by just releasing it as like, oh, it's a remix. Like, let's really get behind the remix and see if we could get it to gospel radio and just get some things So they were like, can you just give us a little bit more time? So it was so hard when you have a set date and you know people are excited about it. But I think it's going to be so worth it when it does come out, and knowing that they're in full support. Jacqueline's amazing. She is like the sweetest. I DM'd her to be on this song. Like, I wrote her on Instagram and was like, hey, would you be down to check out this song that I have? I think you'd be perfect on it. And she didn't even hesitate. Like, she was like, yeah, here's my information. And she's sis for real. Like, she's been so supportive, so loving, through all of this. And so to know that her team's behind it and that they're behind the remix, it just makes me happy. So soon, I think a few more weeks, and you're going to get to hear the gospel remix.
Listen, we can't wait, and definitely put us on that email list. We definitely want to get that out there. And I'm going to speak some. I hope y'all pray about it. Y'all, this was magic. This New Day song was magic. So if y'all decide to do a small little EP, I know Jonathan McReynolds and Mally Music played around with it. I think you and Jacqueline could do a small little EP with just y'all two. That would be amazing. So I'm gonna speak it into existence, and remember, just give me the credit if y'all decide to do it.
Credit, that sounds amazing. I'm not lying. I think that would be so fire.
Yeah, maybe 4 or 5 more songs from y'all. Listen, a small little EP, nothing that y'all got to stress about. Just some magic. I just know some magic will come out of that. Especially you said y'all went in the studio and y'all did it in one day. So shouts out to y'all, and shouts out to God. Shouts out to God for giving y'all the creative juice to be able to knock that thing out in one day.
Oh, that's so awesome. I love that idea. I'm going to
Blanca,
run it by. I'm gonna see what I could create.
listen, sis, tell the people how they can connect with you, follow you on all your social media platforms, as well as introduce your latest single.
Yes. So you could find me at officialblanca.com or on any social platform at officialblanca. And make sure you check out Threads. We were just talking about this before we started. So you could find me on Threads as Official Blanca too. Who knows how long that's going to last. But yes, I have a new single out called Something Better with Torrin Wells. And man, this song is just like really the heartbeat for me, about knowing that no matter the circumstances, no matter the pain that you've gone through or the trials that you've gone through, that there is hope on the other side, that he can take anything. Like, here it is. Nothing is wasted. Nothing in your story has been in vain, but he uses every tear, he uses every prayer, every broken moment, and he turns it into something good. Somehow, even when we don't know or see it in the moment, you'll see with time how God's turning it around. So this is my latest single, Something Better, and I hope you guys love it.
Keep it locked. You tuned into The Fixx. You know The Fixx is in.